How's everybody doing? Nice to see you, Chris, Mr. Victor Rubio, Maria. I know last week we were talking about, creating art via AI, and there's a lot of different tools. And I know, Chris, you mentioned Kittl. Um, so I've been playing around with it. I was wondering if I was on the right one, but I wanted to, before we kind of get started, I wanted to see if anybody wanted to share anything since last week, anything big, anything small, anything, that's been happening with you guys. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Chris, since we're making eye contact here.
Hi, yeah, looking at you. No, it's been a good week. My printer got delayed, so it still isn't here. It's supposed to come on Friday, so fingers crossed. I'm super excited to get started and get back to direct to garment because I'm finding that's definitely my preferred medium. So
Mhm.
that's exciting. But I did finish that job that I talked about last week and got paid. So that was wonderful.
Nice.
That's a victory for sure.
Money in the bank.
Exactly. So, and that was a really broad spectrum job because it was branded merchandise, but I also did their vehicles. So did vinyl graphics for a big construction trailer and a van. And it's just been fun to kind of see how the creative things that we learn for this business can be applied to so many different mediums and substrates. It's pretty exciting. So, and they were super happy, which is the best part. So yeah, that's all that's been going on here.
For the vinyl graphics that you were talking about, um, have you been doing that for some time? Because that's actually something that I never personally did myself. I wanted to expand into it, but I found it to be you have to be really good on the graphic side, right? Uh,
Well, it depends on what you're doing. I mean, I just took kind of the things that I've already learned from um, being a hobbyist, let's say, from like the days of the cricket. And I got a Romeo, which is a 24-inch plot cutter. So like the professional version of a cricket, and just used a commercial marine grade vinyl to cut my images and then watched a million and one YouTube videos to make sure that how I thought you do it is how you actually do it. And I had dabbled a little bit, like my son has a business, so I did his truck, and it held up well and has gotten good, um, input from people who saw it, which is kind of how that job happened. They saw his truck and said, "Hey, who did that for you?" And but I'd never done multicolored, so like more than one layer of vinyl. But yeah, there's a learning curve, but it actually turned out great. And on their construction van, those images were 6 feet tall. That
oh,
was a
wow.
6 foot by 4.5 foot logo on this giant construction trailer. So it was definitely a two-person job, but it was a lot of fun. And that I actually manipulated the logo in Kittl. So you were talking about that. And what's nice about that is that once you save that, you can apply it to a lot of different formats. So I was able to import it into the Leonardo Studio, which is the software for the plot cutter, in the
Okay.
same way that I could have put it into a RIP software. Just
So,
depends
so
what
you
you want
said
to
it
do.
was like a 4 by 6. You kind of did it, and you split it in half, and then you applied it
Yeah,
together.
what the original, it had like an offset. So it was a gray and black with like a lime green like border basically around it. So I was able to do the lime green in basically two panels that were 6 feet tall and 2.5 feet wide. And then everything else I could do in, smaller 2.5 foot sections and then just, because that was the only piece of the image that was one big piece. Everything else was like lettering or parts of an image. So yeah, it was
Okay.
good. I can
Who
post a
helped you with
picture if you want.
Yeah, who helped you with the install?
My husband,
Okay, so you guys tag teamed it up, huh? That's
God
always
bless
good.
him. Yeah, I could not have physically done it by myself. It really does take two people, because sometimes you have to just hold part of that adhesive vinyl away from the surface you're working on. And if it like touches, it's like, it's on there, So
Right.
having him hold it away while I was squeegeeing it down, that sort of stuff, it was definitely a two-person job. So,
Yeah, and
Anyway, has nothing to do with garment printing, so don't let me take up your time. Other than it was the
that's why
same
I'm
company.
picking your brain. Everything that we talk about here is like I like to for it to be kind of business related, right, and growth related. So that's why I'm kind of picking your brain on it. So don't think you're hogging time.
Oh, thanks.
I'm
Well, the
extracting
nice thing,
information.
it was all branded merchandise. So I took redesigned their logo and then said, okay, how many ways do you want to use this? And we did hats and jackets and sweatshirts and hoodies and the vinyl graphics. And now they want window decals. And so it's just like, I'm like, I can be your one-stop shop. That's fine. I just don't want to get to the point where I'm dabbling in so many different things that I'm master of none. Right. So kind of trying to, stay in my lane. I just haven't figured out what my lane is exactly yet. But they were happy and I loved learning something new and challenging myself. And it was a very nice profit margin. So
And I think, when you're talking about, knowing your lane and staying in your lane, I feel like you're within the boundaries of, providing custom merchandise, right? If you're like doing custom merchandise and you have a plumbing business and you have a lawn care business, and that might be like, all over the place, right? Because when I was doing a lot of printing, I was dealing with a lot of brokers, and then they were the ones that were providing the full solution to their customers, right?
mhm,
Which is exactly what you did, where it's, they might need something for their trucks, their hats, even mugs and pens. So it's like, having the capability to offering all those different products, right?
mhm.
So, um, and it
Here,
seems
I don't
like
know if you can see it, but here's a picture of the trailer.
yeah, in text.
It says finishes on the bottom. You can't see it very well. They're a exterior and interior painting company.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Oh, that's really cool.
So,
Yeah,
but I
so
mean,
uh-huh.
it all does kind of come back to, we were talking about using AI. I didn't use AI for that specifically, but I did manipulate it in Kittl, which was one of the programs we were talking about last week.
Yeah, and I was playing around with it. It almost seems kind of like Canva, right? Um, so I vaguely touched it. It seems like you have a lot more experience with it, right? You've been using it for some time now.
I've been using it for about 6 months and I used Canva Pro before that. And I know that, Canva is super limited in terms of, especially if you're looking at graphics to print where you really want like a 300 DPI or better to get that quality and crispness. Um, and so the biggest difference I think using Kittl is that you can vectorize an image. You can upscale and then you can create any size so like if their normal DPI to say that is 72, I might say I need an image that's going to be 12 by 14. I'm going to create it as like 60 by 42 so that when I reduce it to 12 by 14, it's going to have a much higher DPI than if I'm created it at that size. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's a
So
lot
it's
easier to
kind of a
scale
cheat.
down. Yeah, to scale down versus scaling up, right?
Right, right. But I mean, for the price compared to, say, learning something like Illustrator, which is amazing, but so rich and so layered, takes a really long time to learn how to get to all the features that you need. Kittl, I think of, and I'm not trying to sell anyone, I'm just saying for me, it was like the for dummies version,
Mhm.
right? It was super user friendly. I could navigate. I could kind of like you showed in the AI program last week, where you could take something someone else has already created and say, hey, I like that. It will give you the ingredients and then you can manipulate it to make it your own. So you're not reinventing the wheel all of the time. So there were some features like that. So for me, not being a graphic designer and not having a ton of experience, but knowing Canva Pro couldn't do all the things I needed it to do, it was a really economical solution that didn't make me want to pull my hair out from the like learning curve side of things.
No, that's really good. I'm gonna I'm gonna circle back to you, Chris. You have a lot of information. The topic is AI, so I'm gonna be picking your brain today. Um, so anybody else want to share since last week? Maria, you've been patiently waiting. I know you always have some good stuff you share with us. Is there anything that a win that you've had since last week?
Well, it was a learning but expensive win. Remember that emergency order that we did for that school, for that guy for that school with all the
Yeah.
trans? We still haven't gotten paid for that. And
Oh,
yeah, so he ran into some financial issues and now he kind of wants to just barter with some equipment that I'm not sure I really need at this time, but
for
so
that for that order, what's kind of like the details for that? What was the quantity and what's the IOU on that?
we did 100 transfers. And then we did direct to garment on about 95 shirts, and he provided the shirts.
Okay.
We charged him about $1,200 just because it was an emergency order too. I mean, we got it on what Monday, Tuesday, and had it done by Thursday, and so we were up till midnight. And yeah,
That's the one
but
we weren't able to help you out with, right? Just because of the
right,
turnaround time.
yep, yep. So hopefully he'll come through, but we haven't seen it yet. I think he's really struggling, so we might have to be patient, or he wants to trade some of his equipment that he's trying to get rid of. But I don't really, I mean, I've got a Hottronics hat press, and he has one that's heated on the top and the bottom, which would be nice, but I don't really do that many hats and caps, so
Hmm.
but
What type of business is he in?
he he was kind of my go-to. He had some really nice equipment and did um banners. He did like the big graphic stickers, sort of like what Chris was talking about, except he actually did them, on the vinyl and cut them out on that. Um, so he'd do it for like cars and stuff and trucks and vans. So that was kind of his side business. But, and I don't know all the details as to why he just hasn't made it. I think that it was kind of a side gig and he got in over his head.
But was
But
it like an order that he sold to his
was,
customer?
yeah, yeah. He,
I'm assuming he probably
with
collected money, right?
Well, no, what happened is he volunteered to do this at his cost for a school that his kids belong
Um,
to. And so he ordered the transfers from a company, and they had told him that the graphic was pixelated, and they kind of showed him a picture, and he said it wasn't that bad, but then when he actually got the transfers, they were, well, he couldn't use any of them. So then that's why he reached out to us, and I picked up some business. I'd done business with him before. When he had like a larger order in t-shirts, we would do direct to garment printing for him for his customers. He was kind of the middleman.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that happens to the best of us, and that's kind of like what I was sharing as, hopefully my goal with, everybody joining here is to avoid those costly mistakes, right? Because I've been there, I've done that. I've gone, owed money from, even the worst one is when you're owed money from large companies, right? Uh,
right.
one of them, I'm gonna put them on blast that they never paid me is West Coast Customs, right? I'm not sure if you've ever heard of them. They're like on TV. They're like huge companies, a huge company that does like custom cars and all this crazy stuff, right? One of their reps reached out to me because they needed like cool graphic design and so forth, and then they needed embroidery. So this is before I was very adamant of collecting up front. So I did all this work for them. They paid one invoice and they wanted more. So then I did more, and then they just completely ghosted me. Uh, with the invoice. I think it ended up being, maybe like, let's say on the low side 1,500, on the high like 2,500, right? It definitely has a comma. When it has a comma in there, it's like a little tear that makes you want to cry, right? Um, so I remember I emailed everyone. I even like try to find the email of the CEO, and I emailed him, and like I just got ghosted, right? And then the worst part was seeing like their commercials all the time, their show, getting a new factory and all this crazy stuff. I'm like, dude, why am I being ghosted if these guys are like, so and then from my experience, I'm pretty sure it was like the rep probably didn't even communicate the invoice, and it just like I just wasn't able to get to the decision maker. So that's kind of one of the early stages, where I decided that, for everything that I do, I'm gonna collect up front.
Right.
Because, there was also another situation where I just let an invoice grow out of proportion, where like a company ended up owing me like $20,000, right? Around $20,000, and this was a huge international apparel company. I'm gonna put them on blast too. Their name is Cynthia Rowley. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of them. They're like, they do a bunch of different merchandise, and we were like doing next day air to their place in Japan and Hawaii. So they're spending more in shipping than, the actual production. So we did a lot of work for them. And same thing, they have different buyers, different reps, and you're dealing with the reps. And they're so used to, for these larger companies, they're so used to like ordering, and then we'll pay you maybe 30 days out, 60 days out, right? But this company, they just got over their head. It literally took me, I'm gonna say, like a year and a half, tops 2 years to collect strategically, right? I slowly pulled teeth out to get that money. And then I had at that time, Victor, my brother Victor, not Victor Rubio, but Victor from OmniPrint. He helped me. He gave me pointers on how to collect too. So he helped me, and he actually was able to get in contact with the they're called the controller, the one that manages all the finances and pays, and they're all like, yeah, we owe you 20,000, but to be honest with you, you're like the smallest fish on our IO list. We're like trying to tackle these, 6, 7 figure debts that we have, so we don't really see ourselves getting to you. They were pretty blunt, right? So, and then like I think it was like maybe a year later, a different rep reached out wanting stuff. So I'm like, oh, because I was on their vendor list and I had like a good reputation with them. So I learned my lesson. So I'm like, okay, they ordered a bunch of stuff for me, and I kind of stockpiled the orders, right? They drop shipped like thousands of dollars worth of merchandise to me, right? So I'm like, okay, I too can play this game, right? So they just drop ship a bunch of stuff to me, and then I'm all like, oh, by the way, you guys have this pending invoice. It's gonna need to get taken care of before we can move forward with the new order. So, that buyer, she wasn't even aware of it. So she was like not happy. I'm like, hey, well, I'm sorry. This is like a year and a half old. You guys need to. Long story short, I slowly pulled teeth, like 6 grand here, 5 grand there, and it eventually got, paid off. But that that one was a really, like, that's the one that really branded me for my new process of like I'm never gonna put put in this situation where somebody doesn't pay you, because it's kind of like what you're saying. I remember, in my first location, it was like, it wasn't that big. It was like maybe 1,200 square feet, something like that. And around the corner was this business that they sold printed merchandise. Like you would go in there, they had like different clothing brands, like streetwear and stuff like that. So I kind of networked with that owner, and I ended up doing work for him. So same thing, ended up tallying up an invoice. He got into a financial jam. He was struggling to pay his rent, and that one never got paid. So that one, like, that was another, So yeah, so I definitely feel your pain, Maria. Hopefully, what's the biggest thing that you took away from this situation? Like, what's this? What do you feel is going to be your strategy for this one? Because this, in your situation, if he has equipment, you can kind of see what you can utilize. Maybe you can take, if it's 1,200, it can be like a couple $100 a month. Slowly recoup it,
Yeah,
right?
I reached out to him too, and I said, I'll set up a payment plan with you or anything, whatever it takes, just so that I just needed that guarantee that he was not going to forget about what we did for him.
Yeah.
But I know that's when I had a soft heart, because it was for kids. It's for school or whatever, but I will not do that again. And I'll have half down for sure. But even though that was just kind of a bummer, I did pick up a customer, and I know Chris mentioned different kinds of medias. I printed, so she's an artist for one, and then she does sewing. So she called me and asked me if we printed on material. And I'm like, well, yeah, we print on t-shirts. And she says, well, I make pillows, and she says, I have a website, but they charge me like $15 just in shipping, plus whatever the cost of the print is. And so I said, well, bring me a piece of material, we'll try it. And it worked, and they're beautiful. So she does the art, sends me a picture of it, and I print it.
You're doing direct to garment like on a pillowcase?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah, and then she makes the pillows and then decorates them with different materials. But
okay.
it's actually her painting.
You're printing on the fabric, and then she's sewing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I had similar projects like that. I never was able to finalize one because the people that wanted me to do pillows for them, they had the finished pillow, and then they wanted me to print on the finished pillow, which is very difficult with direct to garment. And then also, I'm like, well, you kind of have to do light pre-treatment for the ink to be really good. But then it's like, does anybody really want to be sleeping on pre-treated? So it's like it was never a go. But if I would have had that solution that you have, that would have working with somebody that does cut and sew is like it'll elevate your game.
Yeah.
To
I was
do
super
those.
happy. I've done prints for her so far.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's really good.
Yeah, she loves them. She thinks they're great. I thought I lost her as a customer because she had sent me this email and wanted to she says, I want to try different materials, because the first piece of material she gave me was kind of a polyester blend. So I did use the pre-treat, the polyester pre-treat, and it came out beautiful. And then she decided that she wanted more of like a twill material. And that one turned out even nicer. It turned out really pretty, because she does kind of like a water painting with flowers and that kind of stuff. So that's really vibrant, and they're just decorative pillows. So she didn't really care about, it wasn't gonna be used for like a
Sleeping
case. Yeah. So it's all home decor, but yeah, so I picked her up, and she loves them. She's gonna probably utilize me a couple more times for some other projects of hers.
No, that's really good.
Yeah, no one else would do it for her.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, those are the good customers to have. You just start stockpiling all these little customers, and before you know it, they definitely add up.
Yeah.
And then one thing that I was just thinking, going back to that IOU, what I would do is, even if he has like a piece of equipment that has some value to it, right? I would kind of hold that equipment and be like, hey, I want to hold some equipment that maybe let's say if it's worth $3,000, right? You get that piece of equipment. It might not really have any value to you. You can resell it if you have to, but it's kind of like you're holding on to something, and he'll do like the $100 to $200 payments, and then you give him the piece of equipment back. That might be something to consider. I know you said you have a soft heart, but even soft hearts are surrounded by ribs.
Good point.
So yeah, so that might be something worth thinking about.
Yeah, because he has most of his equipment he's had to return back to the lender, but
Oh, okay.
and we're talking like $20,000 pieces of equipment that he had, and so he did he did want to barter with one of the Hottronics. What is it, something? It's with the heated top and the heated bottom of a hat press. The hat
Okay.
press. Which I have one. It's not that model. Mine is prior to production, of that one. It's just the regular one. But and like I said, we don't use it that often. But the hat press, I think that might be an option in the future. I mean, he wants to, he was going to list it for like 1,500. So he wanted me to still pay the difference of what he owes. And I'm like, nah, don't dole out any more money to you, dude.
So he wants to like offload the debt to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're able to take it, right, and then be like, hey, you can, I'll take it for the debt, if you want it back, you could pay me for it, right? I mean, because if you're talking about the heat press that I'm thinking the Hotronics, the one with the digital
Yeah.
pad and stuff like that,
Mhm.
those because especially as you expand and you're doing like custom neck hits, sleeves, I think Chris, is that the one you have, Chris?
Is that with the heated bottom and the top? Yeah.
So that would be a good one because if you're doing, like I said, the neck hits, the sleeves, all those special locate hats. Obviously you might not need it now, but it's one of those things where it just fell in your lap because of a, IOU type situation. Um, so for him to still want to post it and get his money back, that's not how it works, right? Typically, when you buy something, let's say for $1,500 and you're in a situation where you have to sell it, you're lucky if you get a grand, right? Um, so it always worked out that way where it was like, if you need something, you have to pay for it. And if you like need to offload it, then you feel like somebody's winning, right? Somebody's taking advantage of you. So I don't really see him getting full value for it. If you can somehow say like, hey, I want to hold on to this, that might be that at least gives you something of value to hold on to versus the slow grind of like $100 here, especially if you're saying that he's already like getting equipment repossessed, right? Um, so it might be like a little bit harder to get a couple $100 a month out of, even if you do a couple $100, that's like, I don't know, 6 months, something like that. Um, but do you have a good communication with him where you can kind of have like a good dialogue?
Yeah, I think so. I've reached out to him a couple of times and felt like I was getting ghosted, but then um I sent him a text and he did respond at least because he's not using his email that I had. So
Uh-huh.
he it because his business is going out. So I don't think he was really checking it or he didn't really want to check it. But yeah, that's a great idea because I don't think, I mean, those go, I looked them up, they go for about 1850 right now. Um,
If you can get your hands on it, that would be a win for you to at least have something. The other option is you just do the slow grind, recuperate because from experience, when everything's on fire, right? You're like focusing on the big fires versus the little match that's on fire, right? You're like
I,
you're putting all your energy on the big fire. So,
I'm
um,
just thankful that he's the one who purchased the shirts and not us, so really
yes.
material wise, all I'm out is the transfers, the glue, and most of it's labor, time and
Because you did it yourself, right?
mhm,
So
yeah,
supplies, what, a couple $100 in supplies
yeah.
plus all the sweat, right?
All the sweat and late night and midnight and yeah, in the rush, um, so hopefully it'll all work out. That's a great idea. I should tell him, just drop it off and then we'll work something out.
No, definitely, because as soon as you can hold on to something,
Mhm.
um, the communication will stay there, right? Because once somebody it's in a financial bind, and let's say worst case scenario, he just walks away from his business, right? It'll be hard, or like I don't see too many people actually like paying off all their IOUs, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, definitely the main thing is having that communication, right? And good lesson learned because it's a $1,200 invoice, but it costs you a couple $100, right? Um, so I always say collect up front, make that your policy. I know
Mhm.
it might sound a little bit difficult at first if you're not used to doing that, But that was my policy. Like, I'm gonna say for like 95% of my, when I was doing my stuff on my own, my career, and that was my for the 95% of the time after I got burned a couple times,
Huh?
that's when I switched my policy. And it's funny because I used to do a lot of printing for other printing companies, right? And I would require them, and we would work together, right? So I would send them, let's say an embroidery company, I would send them a bunch of stuff for them to embroider for me, and they wouldn't charge me until I picked up the stuff, and then they would send me stuff for printing, and I would tell them like, hey, you need to pay before I even do anything, and they're like, well, like you don't pay us until you pick stuff up, right? I'm like, well, that's my policy. Like, I'm like, if you want me to pay for your stuff up front, I can pay for your stuff up front, but I'm not gonna change my policy on you. So even like working with similar businesses, you'll have those situations, but it's just staying firm to your policy. You kind of you live and you learn, and hopefully, a lot of the stuff that we share here is, laying, like laying out the battlefield, like avoid these mines, and avoid these mistakes, and but what do you see yourself moving forward? Like, hey, payment up front for everything, Maria, or
what I'll do, I think from now on is, I mean, we've done that before with a really large order. We've asked for half down and it was for a larger company here in town, and they were happy to do it. So yeah, that's going to be our policy moving forward is we'll want half down, or at least enough to cover our cost of materials. For
try
sure.
try doing. I know it's going to be a little bit hard. I would recommend try doing everything up front, right? Because even let's say even if you do 50% down and you get a large order and they flake on you, right? It's going to be the equivalent of you staying home watching Netflix. And you might have spent a week or 2 weeks printing nonstop, and at the end of the day, it would have been like the same as you just chilling watching Netflix, because that's happened to me before too.
Yeah. Good
But yeah,
idea.
so yeah, well, thank you for sharing, Maria. I definitely wanted to, extract all that information from you to, for everybody here that's joining us to, help and listen, and thank you. And then I see Kenny. How are you doing, Kenny? How did that order go? I know last time we were talking about the AI and the design and so forth, and you were working on a design. How did that order end up going for you?
It went well.
Yeah?
I got a new project I'm working on the Juneteenth.
You're working on a what?
Juneteenth, June 19th.
Oh, okay.
And I put local figures in that, and that's the first time it's been done. Give me 1 second, I'll grab it for you.
No worries. While he's grabbing that, Mr. Tony, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Got me a new computer to use as a standalone here. So I'm trying to get my RIP software loaded up on it. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are those, Kenny, are those the shirts you did recently?
I just did it a couple of days ago.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good to see the progress that you've been making, Kenny. Let me make that larger. Okay. Cool. You did that design?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did.
What do you Chris, for Kittl, is that something that Kenny would be able to upload that graphic and then start tweaking it from there? And like, is that how that works?
I like Pixar.
To be honest with you, I haven't started with my own image, but I don't see why you couldn't, because I've done it with other graphics from like the library. I'll open a second screen and go over and play with it and see, and keep listening while you guys are talking.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing your screen? Is that possible?
I don't mind at all.
Yeah,
I've
since
never
the
done it
top,
before. Just hit this share screen, the little green
yeah,
arrow.
share screen. Make sure you close any of your bank accounts. Anything don't want us to
Okay,
see.
let's see.
All the notes that says Mauricio is like not the best.
Ah, you're so funny. Okay, so I have to move. You guys are in the way. I'll move you to the other side here.
Chris, I also love Kittl.
Okay, good. Someone else who
Yeah.
likes it.
It's
Okay, so I
it's
don't.
awesome.
So what are you guys seeing? Are you seeing the Kittl homepage?
Yeah, we see your whole screen.
Okay, so up here, I have my projects, new projects. So if I go here, it's going to show the things that I've already created. But at the home screen here, these are all like templates and inspiration. So say I want to look at ideas for stuff for apparel. I can hit apparel. Then they're like, well, you want to look at sweatshirts, you want to look at bags, you want to look at hats. But then below here are just things that people have created. So just like you were saying with the AI, say I liked this Wanderlust Peaks. If I like this, I can click on it and it will automatically start it as a new project. And then I can go in and tweak it and change the wording. I can change the image. I can change the background color. You can just favorite it. So you can go back and look at it again in the future. But I'm just going to take you to one of my projects so I can kind of show you what the design board looks like. And I might even have one or two that I've created with AI. So now I got to move you guys again. I wish I could figure out where to put you so you wouldn't be in the way. So let me go to a t-shirt graphic here. So you were talking about working with artists. So this one, these two up here, these are a watercolor artist who is doing a project on Facebook, like a new project every day. And she was getting so much input on it. And she's a good friend of mine. So I actually used the Kittl mockup and put this in a gorgeous, like, looks like someone's living room in a giant photo or art piece. I put it on a sweatshirt and I put it on a tote bag. And I was like, look, we could do branded merchandise. And everyone's like, yes, yes, yes. So that's another thing about Kittl that's cool is they have a feature for mockups, which is really helpful. So, okay, here's one that I made. I'll pull this one over here. We'll load it up so you can kind of see what's what. I'm trying to move you where you're not on top of any of the tools. So this is just like could be a t-shirt graphic, right? And so if you see down here on the right, it says project colors and layers. So if you click on that, it's going to show you what's in your project. So all the different layers. So for example, that bar that just came up above it tells you the size. So this one I'm using 1200 by 1200 pixels. That's really big. That's way bigger than I would need for a t-shirt. But again, I want a higher DPI when I save it. So I'm starting with a bigger canvas. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So then it's going to tell me what kind of textures I overlaid. Like if you look at this part of the image here, let me enlarge it for you.
So did you create this one from scratch?
I created this one from, I was just searching like retro, and this one came up and it didn't say Sunshine in My Soul, but it was similar to this. And then I just started manipulating it, because any of these elements, see all the grids that just showed up?
Yeah, it's kind
All
of like
those
illustrated.
represent individual elements that you can, I think it's all grouped now, but that you could add, remove. But what I was going to show you was, for example, see this like rasterized looking area where there's dots, that's a texture layer. These are all, I'm going to ungroup it so I can show you. Because they have a lot of features that are really helpful. So let's see if I can. So there's the word sunshine. If you come over to this panel on the right, it's going to tell you the name of that font is Sundays. And you see where it says border weight. So like down here, the word soul has a black border around it. That's where you create that border around your letters. And then you can then manipulate the color of that border up here where it says text color. You can control opacity, you can control width and height and letter spacing. And then down at the bottom where it says transformation, you can distort, arch, you know, whatever you want as far as the shaping of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So,
That
and
looks
then like
really
this one's
cool.
curved and it says right here, flag curve, you get to control how much of a curve, you know? So when I click away from this, right now, this would be like, if I wanted to change the word, I would type a different text in there. When I click away from it, it's going to go back and show you that's the final with the curve and the border and the 3 colors, what it looks like when it's finished. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like Illustrator.
That's a lot of options for text in just one panel. Like you don't have to go hunting for it, which I really appreciated.
No, that's good.
And then like, again, all of these individual components can be moved and manipulated and changed color and, you know, all the typical things that you would expect. I just found like compared to like I looked at Illustrator, for example, or even I have Inkscape, which I know can do a lot of really cool stuff, but it's not as user-friendly. Like it's not as easy to find those things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like I think this is pretty straightforward. So over on the left side here, you've got templates, text, elements. So for example, if I want to add like a starburst or something, I would click elements. Sorry, I got to move you guys again. And then it gives you, you want shapes, you want ornaments, you want illustrations, and then they kind of break it down into categories for you to add things to that design. But the thing I use probably the most is the upload feature. And this is where you can, so like, here's a picture of my dog that I created with AI.
Oh,
This
wow.
little guy right here. Okay. So I just uploaded that. I can pull that into a project. So, you know, these are all just things I've either created or uploaded because I wanted to manipulate them in something I already was working on. But let me go out of this so I can, let me just start a new project.
How would you use the AI to start something from scratch? Like to
Okay,
start.
let's do that. So we're just going to start a new, I just click new project. It's going to ask me, what do you want it to be? And it has some pretty standard options, but most of these are smaller. And because I like to, just because I found this is what works for me, I think we'll go over here and I'll do a larger, maybe like 4,200 by 3,200, for example. Again, because I'm looking to scale it down to have a better resolution. So let's do this. So I clicked orientation. You can change that later. I'm just going to hit create.
Where it said DPI,
Yeah, it said 72, huh?
You wouldn't set that at like to 300?
You don't have to change anything if you're starting on a bigger canvas, because
Okay,
then you're going to reduce down. You're automatically going to get a higher DPI, because I think 100 is the highest it will allow you to go on a regular save. But again, that's where, you know, you're kind of like downscaling instead of upscaling. But it does have an upscale feature. If you upload something that's not great quality, it can upscale it for you and clean it up.
Okay.
Which is nice. So, so I'm just going to make my canvas smaller so I can see what it is. So if I want to try to create something from artificial intelligence, let's go to, I went to elements, and then let's see. Oh, no, wait, AI is down here. Sorry, I forget where things are. So down at the very bottom on the left, it says Kittl AI. So we'll hit that. And then it says, describe your image. So this would be where you would put in your prompt. And then it does have, as you scroll down, it gives you image styles, which are kind of like, I'm trying to think of what in Playground AI, what those were called. Screens, I think. So, so for example, I did something in this like clip art style that was trying to give me, like this kind of look here, these little cartoon type things. So let's just pick some kind of random, what do you want to make? Let's just see what it comes up with. Cute brown dog. on a beach. Just to pick something random to see what it comes up with, right? So we're just gonna, start from, because I can't think of anything else. So we'll do that. I didn't give it a direction as far as a particular style because I just want to see what it comes up with. Cute brown dog on a beach. Who knows? Is it going to look realistic? Is it going to look like a cartoon?
I like it. It seems like it has a bunch of features of a bunch of other different platforms all into one.
I mean, I thought it was super user friendly. Okay, I can't even see the image because you guys are in the way again. So,
Yeah, that's really good.
Pretty photorealistic. So then from that, I can come down here and I can apply a certain type of style to it, or like stylize it. I can go back into the prompt and add more detail. I can say at sunset, or you know what I mean, and manipulate it. Like this dog's kind of looking down. I could say looking straight ahead. And then, but again, the better you are at knowing what you want your prompt to be, the more time you'll save, right? Because this is where I feel like you can go down a rabbit trail just playing and, coming up with all these different, different things. So if I liked that, I could just save it and continue to work with that. If I wanted something about this to be changed, I could vectorize it and then go back and separate it by color and then change the clouds to orange if I wanted to, so it has a lot of, over here on the right is where you have, can remove, if any image you bring in, you can remove the background, you can vectorize, and you can upscale just to clean it up and make it if it's like something is pixelated, for example. So, I mean, the AI probably have used the least in this program. And I think that compared to something that just does AI, you're always going to have to work a little harder at it here because it's only a feature rather than the major function of the program. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then what it did, it's pretty good.
I mean, for a first shot and such a simple description, that's not bad. It is a brown dog on a beach. There's no debating that. So, then again, what do you want to do with that? You could cut it into a shape, you can add text, you can create a different background, so like all of the things that I think just about any other image software can do. I just personally found this one to be pretty darn user friendly for $20 a month. Like that's the part that I thought was pretty amazing, was it was affordable. So I think there is like a token system you'll see over here for the AI, and you get tokens basically by referring people and posting things to that homepage where the inspiration is, that sort of stuff. Like I keep most of my stuff private because I primarily am doing like designing graphic tees for my daughter's boutique, and her whole where she's trying to find her niches, small batch, custom, there's 12 of these and that's it. After that, they're gone kind of thing, where you can't get it anywhere else. So I'm trying to keep my images off of the main bulletin board because I don't want people manipulating them and turning them into something else, because I want her to be able to say these are custom designs that nobody else has. That being said, that doesn't mean that I haven't gone into their, all their templates and inspiration and found lots of cool things, and then manipulated those, to things that worked for me. So
where do you determine if you want to publish it or keep it private?
That is a great question. I believe it's in your settings. Let me look. Okay, there's a share feature.
And then I know last week, Chris, you posted your invite.
I posted a link. Yeah, I can do that again if you're interested. Let me go over here. Okay, here we go. So if I go,
if you don't mind pasting it, I copied it and I actually registered with it. So I'm playing around with it. So if you can paste your link in case anybody signs up, they can use your specific link.
Right. So right here, I just went into my settings, and this is where you earn the AI credits. So right here, it says invite friends. Let's see. So if you post a testimonial, you can get credits. If you follow them on YouTube or Instagram, you can get credits. So it's not hard to get AI credits. Let's see. If
That's
you go
pretty
to,
cool.
whoops, you go to invite friends. I think last time it gave me a link. Yeah, so here's copy link. And then I will put that in the chat in a minute. I can't even see the chat right now. But my point was under settings. It's so funny because I can't find a spot to put you where you're not in the way. This is where you can do your privacy. I'm pretty sure it's either in here or it's in profile. I don't remember. Because there were a couple things that I didn't keep private, and I got like likes and comments on them, which was nice. But at this point, like I said, I'm trying to create exclusive things for Marissa's boutique. So I'm trying not to put my stuff out there for other people to manipulate and create from their own. I'd have to look around. I thought it was under profile, but it might be under account settings. I can look and let you know. I'm just trying to think of one of the t-shirts that I did for her recently that I was particularly proud of, but let's see if I can. So this is something I created with AI. That only took a couple tries before I got it was Donut Kill My Vibe. So this little caricature donut, I just said I wanted a walking donut waving in a cartoon motif, and this is what it gave me. That was pretty cute.
Yeah, that's really
Like a
good.
cute little graphic tee, I mean, again, for me, I just felt like as far as being cost effective and easy to use and kind of figure out. I was trying to find a specific project here that I wanted to show you guys, but of course it's going to be way down the rabbit trail here. Oh, okay, this one. This was one that I actually saw on Instagram, a gal wearing this particular, a very similar, not this exact graphic, but very similar. And so I went into the search engine and where, it's talked about at the very homepage where I had templates, and I said patriotic United States, and something that was very close to this came up. And so I clicked on it, brought it over, and then I just manipulated it, changed the wording, changed the coloring, added more stars, XYZ. And it actually just printed it on some like speckled gray t-shirts, and it looks amazing. And so she's launching it this week on this little mini 4th of July launch. And then the cool thing, and I'll show you this right here, because this is quick. I know we're running out of time, is see up here at the top, it says Mockup. So if you hit that, then it gives you all these different types of mockups. You can put it on a candle, you can put it on the wall, you can put it on a person. But so let's put it on a sweatshirt. So the cool thing, and of course this one isn't going to show you because he's a front view, but say this is a guy looking over his shoulder, it will manipulate the image to like wave so that it actually looks like it's on the shirt and not just laying flat. Here, let's change. This person has some like gathers in her front. Let's see. You can see what I'm talking about. So if you bring it down here, how it automatically changes the angle so that it looks like she's actually wearing it. And then you can go in here and you can change the color that it's on. That's a terrible choice, but it's, you know what I'm saying? You can manipulate the mock-up itself, and then you can save that. So like if you're doing something for a customer who wants to see what their image is going to look like as, a left chest logo or, whatever, you can really easily stick it into this program and then shoot it off to them, and they can see what it's actually going to look like.
That's really cool. It's almost like a better version of, I'm not sure if you heard of Place It.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's all in one spot, which is really cool.
Yeah, so you have like a bunch of different tools that are all in one, and for $20, you can't beat it.
Yeah, Maria, you had some?
Yeah, well, just a comment, and their licensing policy is very generous.
Yes.
You can use any of their templates. You just have to change it a little bit in order for you to use it for commercial use. So they're very, very generous that way as far as, the licensing part of it. So you don't have to worry too much about that.
Right. So
That's
if
good
I
to
wanted
know.
to create a graphic using Kittl, I can go right over and sell it on Etsy. And
Yeah,
there's not going to be any infringement.
right.
That's
You
that's
have
really
to
good.
change it, like even in the name or the saying or something, you just have to change it a little bit in order to use it like that.
Right. Right. So anyway, I thought that this was a very helpful feature. And, like I said, it gives you everything from housewares to apparel to, lots and lots of choices, tote bags, pillows, bedding, blankets, for the mock-up feature. And then everything you create, you have the opportunity to download. So you can download, it's like the mock-up is pretty straightforward. You're just downloading the image. But if you are downloading something that you have created, so I'll download this just so you can see, you have the option here of what type of file you want to download it at. It says 72 DPI, but again, because I am scaling down, it's going to end up being a much higher resolution when I put it into like a RIP software. But let's say if we go in here and we can change that to, I guess it does go up to 300.
It does.
Yeah. So there you go. Then you can remove the background and optimize quality if you want to. And then you just downloads it to your computer. So then you send it over to your program that you're going to print from and off you go.
I've
That's
even
really good.
I've even
def-
taken like images from, a different program, because you can upload those and use it, like especially if you use Illustrator, because I know a lot of people like the vector part of that. And if you created something over there or you had somebody send you something, you can actually upload that into Kittl and then manipulate your backgrounds, your textures, all kinds of fun things.
Oh,
Right.
that's really cool. So you can upload like an Illustrator or like a Photoshop file, and you can kind of start editing it.
Well, you have
Right.
to be careful how you export it out of AI, because whenever you're saving it to print, if on the Omni with the RIP, you have to be careful because in AI, it doesn't read those files, right?
Right.
In RIP. So you just have to export or save it as a different file, but you have several options in there as far as how you want to save it.
Right. So for example, right here, this gray and black in-text, I uploaded this from whoever their original graphic designer was. I uploaded it, I put it into a project, I vectorize it. So that kind of breaks it apart, right? And separates it by color. And then I was able to go in and add the offset so that it would, they have the option of this could have a white border around it. So if you're putting it against black, it will pop, because otherwise the black on black, you're going to lose. They liked the lime green because their original logo, the mountain thing, was lime green. It was ridiculous, but putting a little lime green offset behind it made it pop. So I would not have been able to do that if it wasn't for the fact that I could vectorize that, because otherwise it would just treat it like one image and it would have just outlined the entire image, not all of the individual parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a feature that I appreciated, because otherwise I would have been like, how do I do this? Right? Because I'm not a graphic designer. Like that's kind of the point for me, is how user-friendly it was. So I just uploaded that original image. Once I pulled it over to the project board, then that sidebar where it said upscale, vectorize, or remove the background, that's where I just hit the vectorize, and it asks you how many layers and colors you want it to break apart into. And then from there, you could then select and add the offset or move it or manipulate it or whatever you want to do. So, I mean, again, I'm not trying to sell Kittl. I just found it to be pretty darn user-friendly and have a lot of functions for how affordable it was.
No, it definitely is for $20 a month. It's really affordable. And then Mauricio's already sending me a shock because we're past the time. I
Okay.
definitely appreciate your time, Chris, and giving us a demo. That's kind of what, and I'm sorry if I put you on the spot. I
No,
just
I don't
felt
mind.
like, yeah, you're very knowledgeable
I
with the
mean,
stuff
I'm
that
not
you've
that.
been
There's
doing.
still a lot of things it can do that I don't know because I'm just learning as I go along. But I'm gonna unshare my screen so I can get back to the chat so I can post this
Yeah, post your link
a
on there.
link.
I had it saved from last week, but I wasn't sure if I had still had the right one.
Okay.
And I think Michael Enriquez, he's the one that shared, if I'm not mistaken, Mauricio, the ChatGPT prompt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was playing around with that one. Thanks for sharing that, Michael.
Oh, it
Did
looks
you?
like I just direct messaged it to you by accident, so you can share it.
Let me see here.
Sorry. See, I'm not tech savvy.
Boy, you have me fooled with everything that you just shared. Well, I
But
definitely appreciate you sharing that, Chris. Thank you everybody for joining. Maria, Victor, Mr. Kenny, Charlie, Mauricio, always, being our DJ and keeping it going. Hopefully you guys found this very helpful. I know I did. I'm gonna be playing around more. I was playing around with it, and that's why I kind of asked you, Chris, because I'm like, man, I don't think I'm gonna give this program any justice by me explaining it. And I think you did a really good job, so I definitely appreciate it. And
one of
other
the
than
cool
that,
things about a
uh-huh.
call like this is as you guys learn, we can share and then everybody benefits.
No, definitely. And I'm pretty sure Tony, were you taking a lot of notes?
Yes, I was. Thank you very much, Chris. I use a couple other apps, but I really like how Kittl has everything just about compressed into one platform. You can just navigate inside of it. I really like how you broke down the vectorized too. So thank you thank all of you for sharing.
There's lots of YouTube videos.
Yes. Okay.
Cool. Well, other than that, you guys have a good one. You guys have a good one, and then we'll be in touch and see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.